to the Vardha Chulani channel. Trust all of you watching are safe and well. There's dismal news coming from all parts of the country, with frontline healthcare workers collapsing due to exhaustion and fatigue, no ventilators, no ICU beds, people unfortunately struggling to keep themselves well and healthy, oxygen levels plummeting, and what have you. In this episode, I want to talk about a psychological factor which often affects oxygen levels. Yes, physiology and disease is one aspect to manage our oxygen levels and keep ourselves well and healthy. But a very debilitating emotion also plays a significant part. Maybe sometimes we need to concentrate on the psychological aspects of maintaining our oxygen well being so that this illness can be coped with in a slightly better way. Let me explain. The unfortunate report, COVID positive, sets off an imagination which goes wild. The cognition plays its part in throwing up all kinds of thoughts and, of course, throwing up all kinds of imagery. The usual thinking that is associated with a COVID positive report is, oh gosh, this is terrible. It's the end of the world. I'm going to die. How am I going to cope? I'm going to choke to death. The entire thought process is one of dread, dismalness, and eventual death. Combine that with imagery, which takes us to us imagining the worst, us hooked up on ventilators, having no oxygen available to us, having no paramedics or medical staff being able to take care of us, and you have a whole vivid mind getting the worst of us. These kind of cognitions generate the emotion of anxiety. And anxiety, which is therefore cognitively facilitated, also affects our physiology. Anxiety makes us nervous, leads to tension, leads to trembling limbs, but more importantly, it also leads to shallow breath. The more anxious I get, the more shallow is my breathing. The brain recognizes this breathing as stress breathing, and it becomes a vicious loop where, because the brain recognizes stress, it augments the breathing to become even more shallow, therefore losing carbon dioxide in the blood. This leads to a condition more often known as hyperventilation. It is very important to understand that anxiety affects our deep breathing. This hyperventilation also leads to lightheadedness, numbness, tingling of our extremities, increased heart rate, besides, of course, taking away the carbon dioxide from the bloodstream. Let us not forget that sometimes we bring upon ourselves the exact shortness of breath because of our emotional condition. But that emotional condition is augmented because of a cognitive process. So, in this episode, let's learn emotional first aid, where if you and me, unfortunately, are detected as COVID positive, we have the ability to use what we call an emotional capsule. It is the word tough. Underscore it in capital letters in your head, and it has a very clear connotation. Tough means I don't like what has happened to me. In this case, being detected as COVID positive. 2, I can bear it even though I don't like it. What does that mean? That I trust myself to be able to cope. 3, even though it's a very difficult condition, I will use all the resources available to me to do the best that is possible. And 4, I will direct my mind to things which are within my control. That is, keep my mind in factual, solid, data-driven evidence by using oximeters to see that my oxygen and pulse levels are in order, so that that becomes a data point for me to not panic. And I will also use my imagination and keep myself vividly engaged in something that is more reassuring and calming. It is important to know that breath can be altered even by breathing exercises, relaxation techniques, yoga, etc. But if the mind is not in order, even those techniques will unfortunately fail us. So let's learn that the psychological processes are as important to the management of wellness at the time of COVID. And it is with this that this emotional capsule tough will help you and me to manage ourselves. Take care, stay well, stay safe, and please do write to me at varkha@varkhacholani.com. Till next week, it's goodbye.